As the knife plunged into me repeatedly, my father was across the room, meticulously stitching a teddy bear for my sister. Each stitch was precise, as if the world outside his needle and thread didn't exist. My cries for help fell on deaf ears. "Can't you see I'm swamped? Don't bother me unless it's something serious," he muttered without even looking up. Days later, my dad, a forensic pathologist, stood in front of a group of students, dissecting a female cadaver. "This victim endured unimaginable suffering before her death," he explained, his voice steady. "She fought to stay alive until her very last breath." He methodically opened the body, examined it, and then sewed it back up, letting each student take a turn. He meticulously documented every injury but failed to recognize the most crucial detail. This body was mine, his own daughter, the one he'd grown to despise. My body was eventually discovered in a sewer, badly decomposed and reeking of decay. The police, along with my dad, arrived at the scene. He handled my remains with clinical precision, instructing his students to document every detail. "The victim is a young female, her face destroyed by sulfuric acid. We'll need DNA to confirm her identity," he said, his tone detached. After a brief assessment, he removed his gloves. "Take her back for an autopsy," he ordered. One of his students, struggling to stomach the sight of my disfigured face, excused himself to vomit. Dad shook his head, unimpressed. "Can't handle it?" he asked. The student returned, pale and shaken. "It's not that, sir. It's just, her fate was so brutal." Dad glanced at the body bag containing me and nodded indifferently. "Yes, it's a tough one. Years of working as a medical examiner had hardened him to the horrors of death. But I couldn't help but wonder, if he knew it was me, would he still be so composed?" I watched as they transported my body to the police station and laid it on the autopsy table. From above, I observed as Dad prepared for the procedure, donning his mask and gloves. The cold scalpel sliced through my flesh, and even in death, I shuddered. It didn't hurt, not compared to the 37 stab wounds I'd endured. Dad's movements were precise as he examined each wound, his focus unwavering. At one point, he paused, his fingers brushing against my ear. He knew about the mole under my earlobe. He'd noticed it years ago. For a moment, it seemed like he might connect the dots, but then his students entered the room, and the moment passed. He quickly composed himself, removing his gloves and addressing the group. "This cadaver is a valuable teaching tool. It's rare to see one in this condition. Take your time and examine it thoroughly." The students gathered around me, the harsh light reflecting off the cold steel of their scalpels. I felt nothing now, only a hollow ache as I watched Dad walk out of the room, step by step. He was so close to realizing the truth. When the autopsy report was released, even the seasoned police officers were shaken. It detailed the horrific abuse I'd suffered, multiple fractures, 37 stab wounds, and ultimately, death by suffocation. My face had been disfigured with sulfuric acid, and my fingerprints had been erased. Tony Smith, the head of the criminal investigation team, closed the report with a mix of sorrow and anger. "This is inhuman," he muttered. Dad's expression remained neutral, his years of experience keeping his emotions in check. "Our priority is to identify the victim and find the killer," he said calmly. Tony noticed a pink thread on Dad's sleeve and asked about it. Dad's stern face softened briefly as he pocketed the thread. "Sophie's teddy bear lost an ear. I sewed it back on recently," he explained. Tony raised an eyebrow. "You, the guy who dissects corpses, can also mend toys?" Dad shot him a wry look. "Stitching is my specialty, you know that." Tony smirked. "Isn't Sophie a bit old for a teddy bear?" Dad's tone turned firm. "No matter her age, she's still my little girl, and she's been without her mother since she was young. I owe it to her to make up for that loss in any way I can." As Dad turned to leave, Tony grabbed his arm. "Harper, you've got 2 daughters. You're great with Sophie. Why not show Emily some of that kindness?" At the mention of my name, Dad's face darkened, and he pulled away. "Don't bring her up. She's no daughter of mine." Tony sighed. "I know you're still torn up about your wife's death, but Emily was just a little girl back then. It wasn't her fault." "Enough." Dad cut him off sharply. "Intentional or not, wasn't it all her doing? She killed her mother. She's wrecked Sophie's life. She's been nothing but a curse on our family. I will never forgive her." With that, Dad stormed out, leaving Tony behind. They had been comrades for years, but because of me, there was no mercy. I crouched on the ground, my ghostly form curled up in despair. If only I could tell him I didn't kill Mom. Unable to leave this world, I followed Dad home. Sophie greeted him with her pink teddy bear, beaming with joy. "Dad, did you fix it?" He caught her in a steady embrace, his smile warm. "I did. You like it?" "I love it. You're the best, Dad." They sat down to dinner, the atmosphere filled with warmth and affection. Sophie stirred her food and asked casually, "I haven't seen Emily in a while. I wonder what she's up to now." Dad's smile vanished instantly. "Focus on your meal. Why bring her up? Even if she's dead outside, it's none of our concern." Sophie tried to soften him. "Dad, you shouldn't talk like that. She's still my sister." Dad slammed his fork down. "She doesn't deserve to be your sister. You are my only daughter." Sophie hugged him, patting his back. "Okay, Dad has only one daughter, and that's me. I won't bring her up again." Dad finally calmed down and nodded. Sophie glanced at the family photo on the wall. My face was covered by a sticker in that photo. She smiled slightly to herself, content that Dad had affirmed her place. Only if I vanished from this world could she live without a shadow over her. The year Sophie was born was filled with joy for our family. My parents told me, as the older sister, to treat Sophie as precious as the apple of my eye. Ever since I was a child, I would let her have the best of everything, placing her needs above my own life. Sophie relied on me heavily, always saying I was the most important person in her world. So when she accidentally knocked over a candle and set the house on fire, she sobbed, begging me not to reveal the truth. At 15, I carried my 10-year-old sister out of the blazing house, my legs scorched by the flames. I thought I had done something heroic, but we were unaware that our mother, who had just come home from a night shift, was asleep in the bedroom. My mother perished in the fire. It wasn't until after the firefighters extinguished the flames that they discovered her charred remains. When Dad learned what happened, he broke down and blamed me entirely. "It's all your fault. How could we have raised a daughter who would bring such tragedy? You've killed your own mother." I was left defenseless, with only my tears to speak for me. I wanted to tell him it wasn't my fault, that Sophie was the one who had lit the candle. But I had promised Sophie I would keep her secret. secret, especially as she was hospitalized with severe trauma from the fire. I couldn't say a word. In the pouring rain, Dad left me behind, as if I were nothing more than a stray dog. Eventually, Tony couldn't stand by and watch. He took me in. I was barred from attending my mother's funeral and was not allowed to say goodbye. I bowed deeply towards the direction of the crematorium until my forehead bled. I know I failed my mother and my father. After the funeral, Sophie hugged me. "Thank you for not ruining my life," she whispered. She also cautioned me. "The incident is in the past now. Don't ever bring it up with Dad. Keep to the story as we've told it. Only the dead keep their secrets," a fact both Sophie and I knew all too well. Maybe her desire to kill me started years ago, but I never saw it coming. I thought taking the blame could heal our family and maybe get us back to the good old days. But as time went by, Dad's hatred for me only deepened. So on the anniversary of Mom's death, I'd vanish for a while, this year included. Early this month, I moved in with my childhood buddy, Kelsey, to avoid upsetting Dad. But then, out of the blue, I got a call. It was the kidnappers, demanding ransom for Sophie. Sophie screamed on the phone, "Emily, save me." She insisted, "Come alone, or they'll kill me." Being a forensic pathologist's daughter, I was mentally prepared for such scenarios. I went alone with the ransom to the specified abandoned factory. There, I found Sophie, unharmed, standing with several burly men she had hired. My blood ran cold. Sophie pointed at me and coldly ordered, "That's her. Get rid of her, and leave no trace." My own sister, whom I've cared for all my life, ready to betray me so cruelly. What happened next is a blur. An extreme pain people tend to forget. All I remember is not wanting to die, desperately gasping for air. I struggled, leaving a trail of blood as I crawled, trying to call Dad for help with my smartwatch. The calls went through, but were disconnected repeatedly. Dad wasn't answering. Sophie's hired thugs smashed my watch, taunting, "Still trying to call for help? Are you asking for death?" The boss said it's all fair game, just finish her off. They stabbed me mercilessly and broke my arms and legs as I tried to crawl forward, but I still clung to life. There was something I still hadn't told Dad.